Hey folks, Carl here and welcome to episode 5 of Tamiya's mid-production Tiger. Okay folks, that is the tank whitewashed. I've literally just been and given it a gloss coat, so we are going to start on the diorama. So I need to get a few bits and pieces together and we shall talk to you in a moment. Okay folks, we have our picture frame, we have some gloves, and we have our filler. The gloves are so we don't get covered in filler, and we have some tape. So first of all we need to tape up the edge of this frame just to keep it clean. So excuse the shine off my light just while I get this done. So we are literally just going to tape up right to the edges like so. A pair of scissors. I'm just going to do that all around just to stop the filler from getting onto the picture frame and drying on there. So okay, so that is us all taped up and ready to go. So all we're putting down at the moment is we're just going to fill this base because we're still waiting on the dowel to arrive. It should be in the next day or so, and we can then add the little hillock that we want to add in the corner with the trees in it. So exactly the same as we did for our speeder bike and our Y-wing. We are literally just going to spread this stuff around. It's quite sticky to start off with. There should probably just be enough in here to do this first base. So there we have it. So we're just going to spread this round as best we can. Get it into all the corners, all the crooks and nannies. And then flatten her out. Like so. And then with this being as wet as it is, with this still being as wet as it is, with it just coming out of the pot, we are going to leave it for around about 20 minutes ish, thereabouts. And now you can see why we've taped around the edges, because stuff is really messy when it's wet. So I'm not going to be able to get that any flatter than it is now because it's just sticking to me. So you can imagine what it would have been like if I hadn't got gloves on. So this stuff isn't harmful in any way, but saves tidying up. So 20 minutes, we shall be back. So talk to you then. Okay folks, that's been 20 minutes, half an hour-ish, and as you can see we can now start to flatten this out and get it off the edges. So I'm just going to go around the edge first. Away, and then we can start to really flatten it out. So we are going to be wanting to put a sort of a track in there for where the tank is going to sit. So we're aiming to have the tank sitting sort of here. We're going to build a little hillock here, and we're going to have the turret pointing this way, so it's engaged in something in the distance in that way. So we are going to want to space out this glove off. Our tank, which has been glossed, just so we can see. So I'll start with the track there. I want it to end there, and the same there and there. So that's where we need our track to be. So again, we are just going to shape and put a divot in and widen it up a little bit, like so. I'll flatten that out that way. Obviously we will be able to, once we start using the wet mud, which is up on the shelf over there so I can't reach it, we can shape these tracks a little bit more. At the moment we're just looking for the definition. We're not looking for any real detail per se. Flatten that out. There we go, we have our two tracks. So I'm going to give this another half an hour or so, and then we can come back and define it a little bit more. Oh, so we can lift that up so you can actually see the definition. We've got two tracks, one there and one there. So, there we go. See you shortly. Okay folks, that's another half an hour, and this is now dry to the touch, so we can dispense with the gloves and start just to shape it a little bit more. We've also got here, before it gets too much of a crust on it, we've got here some spare tracks, so we are going to go along and we're going to put some track imprint into this track. So a pair of these here, just grab hold of these and we can just press down. Get that track imprint in there. We'll probably need to do this again once we put the mud on, but this gives us a few things. It makes sure that the ruts for the track are wide enough, and it gives us the base where the mud goes on. So we're just putting as though there's been lots of movement by different trunks. I keep saying trunks. I can't even say tanks now. Oh dear. Tanks. So yeah, so it looks like there's been plenty of traffic down this path. maybe as though this tank isn't the first in the column. So let's zoom that in a little bit so you can have a look-see. So all as we've done is we've gone and put the imprint of some track into that. So let's zoom back out. That's how we are looking so far. Don't forget, we are going to be adding more detail here once my dowel arrives. So we want to leave this lumpy so it simulates what actual ground is like, but we don't want it. I'll take some of these more lines and things that way. We've been patting it down with the gloves, but we don't want it smooth, so there we go. There is the base of the diorama. Now I'm going to take this tape off. I'll probably put some new on. So I am now waiting for this to dry and dowel to arrive. The next thing we're going to be doing is I'm going to give that gloss coat on the tank some time to dry, so until tomorrow, and then we're going to start working on that whilst we are waiting for other bits to turn up. So there we have the start of our Dio base. So talk to you in a moment. Okay folks, this is now starting to crust over, and as you can see I've gone and added this little tray here. All as this is a tray from a cake. I think this one was a Bakewell tart, and we've pushed the centre in. We've turned it upside down, pushed the centre in and worked our finger around and flattened the edges out, and it is representing a little blast crater. So this is, you can see we've just got the shape of it there, but I'm going to leave this on because we will paint over the top of this. Our tank is now also dry and shiny again, so we can now start actually putting it onto the model to see how things are fitting, and it's looking okay. You need to push this down a bit. Other than that, it's looking alright, but the main thing that has arrived is, we'll get this out of the way, our dowel has arrived today. So I'll get this off. And this dowel has come in from worldgaming.com, and it's pretty cheap. I think it was £4 for the 8mm, and I think £5 for the 10mm, and we should have a 9 of each. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, and 2, 4, 6, 8, and 9. So we are going to use one of these to start with. Put those to one side for now. So what do we want? We need our white brush. We are going to want the first tree stump to be probably around about that big, because we're going to be burying it about an inch, and we're going to be cutting away some of it. So we want a sharp knife. Where is my sharp knife? There it is. Around about yay big. So this stuff we should just be able to roll through it. There we go. So we are going to want to rough up the top edge, and we're also going to slice some bits off to make it look more like a tree stump rather than it just being perfectly round. Let's shave some of that off, like so. There's a bit more of an uneven shape. Let's zoom that in a bit. Like so, a bit more of an uneven shape, and then look at our wire brush. We should just be able to very gently roughen this up and make it look like a proper tree block. And yeah, it's looking pretty good so far. So, there we go. All this needs now is we are just going to see if we can break up the top of this a little bit to make it look more like a splintered and broken tree stump. Just like so. So next we're going to be painting this brown, and then we will add a highlight to it. So there we go, our very first tree stump. I'm quite chuffed with that actually. So I am going to go and make 2 or 3 more different sizes, different ODs, outer diameters, and then we shall paint them up. And well, once they're made, I'll come back and we can paint them up. So, talk to you in a moment. Okay, folks. So here we are. I've removed the silver foil, and we've built up this area here. It's still a little bit wet. So we're still shaping it into what we want, and we've gone and we've put one of the tree stumps in. So how are we doing these tree stumps? So we have 3 more here, all done and prepped and ready, and we are going to very quickly paint on Tamiya's red brown, which is XF64. Just to give us that base colour. Like so. Make sure we get it in all the nooks and the crannies, and then leave that to dry. So we have another 2. And there we have the base paint on, nice red brown. So next we'll give those 20 odd minutes to dry out. We will then dry brush them, first of all with a little bit of flat earth, and then finally with buff over the top to give us that tree looking effect. So I will let these dry and then we'll come back and we'll show you the dry coating. So, talk to you in a moment. Okay folks, here we are. This is dry enough now to put a quick dry brush on, so I'll zoom you in. I've already done the other two, so we've got our Tamiya flat earth. Just put a little bit on the tip of the brush, dabbing it off on the tissue paper, and then we're literally just dry brushing over the top. Now the difference between these two colours isn't great, but it's enough to give us a very, very slight tonal difference. A very, very slight tonal difference. I will get my teeth in one day, but not today. Anyway, so I'm not sure if you are picking this up on that camera. So you can see it, it's very, very slight. So these other two have been drying for a moment. I'm not going to wash the brush out because I don't really need to. So we're now going to take some of the Ep05 buff, quick shake up, and we're going to do exactly the same again, but a little bit lighter. So again, some onto the brush, take most of it off, a little bit of tissue paper like so there's not much on there. Take our tree stump, and again we are very lightly brushing over the top to give us a lighter shade. So it looks like so. Okay, so I'll get these other two done very quickly. It doesn't take long. And we will then get them into the diorama. Again, another one done. Last one. What we're doing there is just stippling in the end. If we have the inside of the tree, it would be a little bit more lighter. So just push that off, get this lid back on the paint. I don't want to do what I did half an hour ago where I shook up my red brown, took the lid off, ready to paint, got distracted by something else, picked it up and shook it again, and thankfully the lid stayed on because I actually grabbed the bottle like this to shake it. But then all the paint came oozing out the side and yeah, everywhere. So quite a bit of a mess. Right, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So we have our 3 additional tree stumps here. So we have the thicker one here. So I'm going to put this one, take out the cocktail stick, and we're just going to find a random place to put this one. Probably there. We'll do. We're just going to push that in. Hold it in place and push the filler up to it. Obviously they look a little bit unusual at the moment because they're literally just coming out of the ground, but once we get the mud on and the snow, they'll start to look a little bit more real, hopefully. Never done this before, so this is a first for me. I'll put this final little one right about there. So there we have our tree stumps in position, and obviously once all of this is dry, we'll be covering the whole thing with dirt. So we have some wet dirt effect from AK, so that'll be going all over. Then we'll be covering it with snow and ice, bits of water, and we hopefully will put like a line of snow up the trees, so it looks like when it's been snowing and the wind's been blowing against it, there's a snow build up the side of it. So there we have our 4 tree stumps. So I shall let all this dry now, and I shall talk to you in a moment. Hey folks, so the diorama is off on one side, drying, and that's going to be at least 2 or 3 days for the amount of filler that we've put on there. So we've glossed the tank, and as you can see, it has taken away some of the whiteness around the more open areas. It's awful shiny at the moment, so we now need to back this white off a little bit, and what I am using is the filter wash that I made when we first sprayed the tank. It's a blacky grey colour, and we're going to apply that filter. I've already done the wheels and it just takes off. Don't know if you can see that. I shall zoom in. Very, very subtle, but it's taking a bit of that shine off the white. We've done the same on this side. It's just backed it off that tiny little bit, and we need to put that track down a bit as well. So we are going to try it on camera on these rear mudguards here. So let me get the lid off this. So we've been pretty quick applying this, and we're literally just loading the brush, and we're just going over and letting it run into the recesses. It gives us that little bit of dirt on the white. We don't want to be putting too much down, so preload the brush and then just let it fill the runs. We're just going to go all over the tank with this, getting it into all the little nooks where we've got bits of white. Just going over pretty quick and into where this rust effect is on the back of here. Too much on the brush there. And then just leave it alone to dry. Way too much in there, but we can get that out in a minute once we've unloaded the brush a bit. Like so. We put way too much on there, so I'm just going to very lightly dab a bit of tissue on it just to take it back a bit. Obviously we're going to be adding some weathering powders to this as well, which will darken these up a little bit more. So there we go, a little bit dirty, not much, just a little bit. So I'm going to go around all this tank and darken it up a bit. Okay folks, that is that filter wash on. It's still wet. And what we did is after we preloaded the area, we went round with a cloth and we just scrunched it up, and then we just dabbed it on. That gave us a little bit of a mottling effect on this wash. If I pick this up and we zoom in a little bit, it's quite subtle. It's not quite as white now, it looks a little bit more used and worn, so as though it's been there for a little while. Obviously we still need to add dust effects and things to this, but there is the first filter wash on. Obviously it's still shiny because of the gloss coat, but it will be matte coated once you've finished all of the weathering. So we are now at a bit of a sitting point, because I've now got to wait for this to dry until tomorrow so we can continue doing it. The base, although it's dry to touch and you can run your hands around it, if I push, it's still very, very soft underneath. So this is going to be, like I said not so long ago, it's going to be a few days for this drying. What we are going to do once it is dry is we are going to go over and paint this base with a bit of Hobbycraft ready mix paint. This stuff's about £1.50, £2, $3 or $4 for great big huge tubs like this, and it's cheaper to use this than it is to use a little pot of Tamiya, which is around about the same price. So once this is actually dry, we will go over and paint it brown, because once it's painted brown and that is dry, we are going to be applying some of the AK wet ground, and we're going to see if we can incorporate some of this Tamiya textured paint into there as well. This one may be a little bit too orangey brown, but this one is very close to this wet effect. Obviously this one is going to dry looking wet, whereas this one will dry looking dry. So what we may do is apply this first along the tracks into where this impact crater is, onto the wheels of the tank and onto some parts of the tank, and then we'll go over the top of that but not go out as much and make parts of it look wet and on the tank as well. So we've been waffling on for quite some time, so the next episode we are going to be concentrating solely on getting things, mainly getting this diorama, getting the mud on, getting the wet mud on, letting that dry, and then getting on to adding the snow effects. We will also do, if there's time in the next video, the soil effects, dust effects and snow onto the tank as well. So I'm not sure how long this video is. My brain's completely gone with doing all the different bits and pieces, so I'm going to call this video here as done, and when we come back we'll be concentrating on this mainly. So as always, thank you very, very much for watching. Be good, be safe, and as always, keep making models, and we shall talk to you next time. Ta-ta.